Nordic.js. It's actually my first time here, and I also heard it's being streamed on Twitch, so some kappas in the chat, please. OK, so you heard my name. I'm actually a software engineer at Uxma, and I want to talk today about building micro web apps and native apps. I will not show how to build them. It's just about some self-reflection, which I did while trying to build one. So what's actually meant by micro web apps? Let's see. So let's take a look into the micro family. So the first thing would be microservices. I guess everyone here knows what microservices are. Then recently, I read about micro frontends. Do you know what micro frontends are? No? OK, I can explain. So in micro frontends, the idea is you share the same concept as microservices, where you want to split instead of splitting your services, you're actually splitting your front end into smaller parts, and then you just pack them together and ship it as one app. But that doesn't really work in native apps, because my background is actually I'm an iOS developer, but in the last 10 months I've been working with web technologies, so React mainly. So these are some links about reading on these two topics. So I said, OK, what about micro web apps? So what's the idea behind a micro web app? The idea is that you have like a full-blown native app, and there's something called the Webview, in which you can actually pack a web page. So just take a Webview and build a small web app, just put it in, then you have a micro web app, essentially. And to actually talk about what I've learned while doing this, I will just now somehow display a micro web app in PowerPoint, so I will not be coding anything, or I will just show. So I will just show like the flow. So let's say we want to build a cat micro web app, because, yeah, why not? So let's assume we have like a native iOS or Android app, which is a to-do app, and then it got boring, so we want to add some cats to it, right? So what do we need to do for it? We just need to integrate a web view, right? So we write our cats web app, and then we create a web view in one of these two platforms. We put the URL, and then just display it. And we get a web app. So this might seem like it works, because, OK, you just put something in your native app, like a web page, then it works. But apparently, it's not so easy. I mean, with static content, it will work most of the time, because OK, displaying HTML and CSS is quite easy. But as long as you have to do some more dynamic stuff, then a lot of stuff are starting to go wrong. So at this point, I would like to talk about what I learned while doing this. So I will start with a bad, so we can have a good ending. First thing is performance, and it's not about rendering stuff. It's about getting to the state where we display something. Because if you have an app where you have to get some data to display it, then actually you first have to get the HTML, which is how the app looks like, and then you get the data, and this will take some time, and the users will probably be bored while waiting for this. So that's in performance state. There's a lot of platform-specific restrictions. If you try building like in iOS, for example, handling the keyboard is a nightmare. There's a lot of breaking consistency with transitions, because the transitions between pages in single-page applications are not so good as transitions in native apps. And it's quite easy to break the design consistency. And the last part, or pre-last, is like interfacing with the native part, where when you need to communicate with a native app, you need to have interfaces and bridges, which actually cause a lot of overhead. And that's on top is like, this is like the native part, and if you want to change that, you need to do some nice bridging, and it gets like really hard. So the good thing is that it's easy to deploy. You're not dependent on stores or anything like that for approving your application before deploying it. you have a shared code base, and you have the possibility of actually using it in other multiple touch points. So I think I'm getting bubbles now, so thank you for your attention.